So we have some breaking news that Donald Trump went on an unhinged rant against the various state governors in response to the George Floyd protests. According to CBS News' Ed O'Keefe from CBS, Donald Trump is basically calling upon the governors to quote-unquote dominate the protesters. Here's what Ed O'Keefe says in this tweet chain. I'm going to read you out some tweets that come from Trump's audio on this call. Just in, President Trump unloads on the nation's governors on a call. Calls on them to step up enforcement. You have to dominate. If you don't dominate, you're wasting your time. They're going to run over you. You're going to look like a bunch of jerks. You have to dominate. He also goes on to add, you've got to arrest people. You have to track people. You have to put them in jail for 10 years, and you'll never see this stuff again. One person listening in on this call describes the president's words and tone as quote-unquote unhinged. Now, obviously, I agree with that perception. Donald Trump sounds awful there. He sounds like a monster. This is not how a leader of a democratic society, a society based on liberty and freedom and the basic human rights enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, should speak or act, whether it's to governors or whether it's to the American people or whether it's to anyone else. The president here is basically telling the people at the gubernatorial level to crack down on innocent citizens protesting, basically saying to put people in jail as a sign of strength, to throw people in jail for a decade or more, simply because you need to dominate them. And if you don't dominate your own people, if you don't, crush the people that you're there to serve, then you are weak. And you are a bad governor, and that's why you look bad, and that's why people are rampaging all over, because you are weak and you're not standing up to the disobedient citizenry. Donald Trump is forgetting that politicians aren't served by the people. The people are supposed to be served by the politicians. The politicians don't rule the people except when the people give their consent to be ruled. And here, people by the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, all across the United States, joined by friends all around the world, protesting for George Floyd and against the systems that led to his passing, are saying, we have withdrawn our consent. And the response to that isn't a crackdown. The response to that is good faith dialogue that things can get better and things can change. And I read something on Twitter that was really instructive when somebody says Donald Trump doesn't understand the difference between power and strength. And he assumes that to be a strong leader, you have to be a big muscly leader, that you have to use the big shiny tools, that you have to have police by the tens of thousands, that you have to lock people up for decades or more. When real strength comes from actually changing things, sitting down with a dialogue, changing your conceptions, encouraging real change that solves the underlying issues, people are protesting, even if the social and political and economic costs of those reforms are controversial, are difficult, challenge the rich and wealthy and well-connected. And of course, we know Donald Trump doesn't care about any of that. We know that the vast majority of Republicans don't care about any of that. We know that a good chunk of the Democrats, the corporate Democrats, don't really care about that. So Donald Trump is out here saying you need to crush them. You need to basically scare your citizenry into submission, into subjugation, into silence. And that's what Donald Trump is saying. Now, some governors were already pushing back. This is a breaking story, but the Illinois governor is reported to have said on the call that basically he's very concerned with what he's hearing from the White House. That Donald Trump seems to be egging things on, seems to be agitating and escalating instead of calling for reform and instead of calling for calm. And it's Donald Trump's actions in part that have perpetuated the week-long protest. It's Donald Trump that seems to be encouraging police officers to become agitators and escalators rather than servants to the people exercising their democratic freedom. This shows the danger of Donald Trump, but it also shows the hypocrisy of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump likes to think of himself as a macho man, as a tough guy, as a guy who challenges the weak traditional politician image because he's a self-made man. He's a guy that understands regular working class Joes. He stands with the hard-working boys in blue that, are the thin blue line, and he's calling on the weak governors to stand up and dominate their own people. Yet when there were people protesting outside the White House, where was Donald Trump? He was hiding in his bunker. Donald Trump isn't on the front lines of these protests, calling for people to be dominated. Donald Trump isn't getting dressed as a police officer, standing on the front line. Donald Trump isn't putting himself on the line. When it was time to dominate from his perspective, he was hiding away. Donald Trump's a hypocrite, and Donald Trump is a danger to the future of the American Republic when he acts like this. No leader, no responsible leader should ever call for the domination of their own people. Donald Trump serves the American citizens, not the other way around. Donald Trump is not a king, and he shouldn't ever be treated as one.